Friends of Islam, this time the Islamic faith is back before you to share Islamic information. I hope it inspires your activities today, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and activate the bell button notifications so you don't miss the latest news from the Islamic Faith channel. In recent years, Islam has shown significant development in Sweden. This phenomenon can be seen from the increasing number of people who are starting to be interested in studying Islam and eventually deciding to embrace this religion. Sweden, as one of the Nordic countries known for its openness to diversity, has become home to a growing Muslim community. In addition to the arrival of immigrants from Muslim-majority countries, another interesting trend is the increasing number of converts, native Swedes and non-Muslim immigrants who choose to convert to Islam. Some factors that drive interest in Islam include the search for the meaning of life, admiration for the spiritual and social values in Islam, and positive interactions with the Muslim community. Many converts say that Islam provides inner peace and a clear direction in life amidst the fast-paced and materialistic modern life. Muslim missionary institutions and community centers in Sweden are also active in organizing discussions, studies, and social activities that are open to the public. These activities are an effective means to introduce Islam peacefully and rationally to the wider community. Despite facing challenges such as stereotypes and Islamophobic sentiments, the growth of Islam in Sweden continues to show a positive direction. More and more people are starting to get to know Islam directly without prejudice and finally feel the beauty of this religion's teachings for themselves. This development shows that Islam continues to be a light of guidance that illuminates the hearts of people, including in parts of the world like Sweden that were previously considered far from the influence of religion. The role of the local Muslim community in the spread of Islam in Sweden is very important. Mosques such as the Stockholm Mosque, the Malmö Mosque, and Islamic centers in Gothenburg are centers of religious, social, and educational activities. There, people who are curious about Islam can attend studies, have direct discussions with scholars or converts, and see Islamic practices up close. In addition, social media also plays a big role. Many Swedish converts share their spiritual journey to Islam through YouTube, Instagram, or podcasts. These stories are often touching and inspiring as they show the search for truth, inner struggles, and ultimately the peace found in Islam. Digital dawah content created by Muslim communities in Europe has also been very helpful in introducing Islam to the younger generation of Sweden. Those who were initially just curious are eventually encouraged to learn more about Islam. Although the development of Islam in Sweden is promising, the Muslim community still faces challenges. Islamophobia and misunderstanding of Islamic teachings still exist, especially due to negative news in the media or biased political narratives. However, with wise dawah, ongoing education, and good examples from Muslims, the image of Islam is slowly starting to change. The hope for the future is that Islam can be increasingly accepted as part of the religious diversity in Sweden. More and more people see Islam not as a foreign religion, but as a universal, peaceful, and relevant way of life for all humans, regardless of background. Islamophobia has occurred again in Europe. Recently, Sweden became the country where an incident that indicated hatred towards Islam occurred. On Saturday, January 21st, 2023, a Swedish-Danish right-wing extremist burned a copy of the Quran in front of the Turkish embassy in Stockholm. Rasmus Paludan, the perpetrator of the action, was apparently not considered to have violated local laws. In fact, he actually received permission from law enforcement before carrying out the agitation. Social media made his action go viral in an instant. World citizens, especially Muslims, strongly protested Paludan's actions. In a Twitter post, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson argued with the words freedom and democracy when commenting on the Islamophobic action. Freedom of expression is fundamental to democracy. However, what is in accordance with the law is not necessarily appropriate. Burning a book that is considered sacred by many people is a very rude act. I would like to express my sympathy to all Muslims who feel insulted by what happened in Stockholm, he said. One of the main indicators of this is the increasing state policy targeting Muslim civil society organizations in Sweden. Another indicator of the increasing tendency of Islamophobia is the increasing number of verbal attacks against Muslims in local public spaces. Dear friends of the Islamic faith, one important aspect of spreading a peaceful understanding of Islam in Sweden is through interfaith education and dialogue. Several Muslim organizations in Sweden actively organize discussion forums, seminars, and introductory classes for Islam that are open to the public, including schools and universities. These initiatives aim to explain Islamic values directly to non-Muslims, reduce prejudice, and build bridges of tolerance between religious communities. Many participants said that after attending such sessions, their views on Islam became more positive and open. Another interesting thing is that more and more young people in Sweden are interested in Islam, both immigrants and natives. Many of them feel a spiritual emptiness in modern life that is materialistic and individualistic. Islam offers a strong value structure, inner peace, and a deeper meaning of life. The younger generation of Muslims in Sweden are also increasingly confident in expressing their Islamic identity. They are not only active in mosques and local communities, but are also starting to take roles in education, art, politics, and technology. This shows that Muslim identity and being a Swedish citizen can go hand in hand, not in conflict. The development of Islam in Sweden is not the result of a massive and aggressive movement, but rather is born from the spiritual strength, dialogue, and real examples of Muslims. The Swedish people's interest in Islam reflects that the truth and beauty of Islamic teachings remain relevant, even in the midst of the secular Western world. By continuing to strengthen polite dawah, expanding the reach of Islamic education, and demonstrating noble morals, Muslims in Sweden are expected to continue to be a light in society, becoming agents of peace, tolerance, and inspiration for fellow human beings. Life for Muslims in Sweden has been a combination of growth and integration, but also marked by challenges of discrimination and Islamophobia. Despite the obstacles, Muslims in Sweden have continued to adapt and strive to build a strong and relevant community within wider Swedish society. The history of Islam in Sweden dates back to the 8th century, when Vikings explored the areas that would become Sweden. Initial contact between Islam and the region occurred through trade and interaction with Muslims from the Arab world and the Middle East. However, it was not until the 20th century that Islam began to grow significantly in Sweden with the arrival of Muslim immigrants. In 1947, Sweden began to receive a number of immigrants from various countries, including many from Muslim-majority areas. These immigrants came to work and build new lives in Sweden. The growth of the Muslim community in Sweden has continued to increase over time, especially with larger waves of immigration in the 1970s and 1980s. Although initially limited to immigrant communities, Islam has become a more integrated part of Swedish society over time. In the 2000s, the number of Muslims in Sweden continued to grow, along with a more open immigration policy. Sweden also hosted many Muslim refugees, fleeing conflicts in the Middle East and Africa. Thus, Sweden became home to an increasingly diverse Muslim community. Along with the growth of the Muslim community, Sweden experienced several social and cultural changes. The Swedish government also tried to respect and support religious diversity, including Islam, by guaranteeing freedom of religion and encouraging social inclusion. However, outside of that, there was an incident that emerged globally, namely the burning of the Quran by a right-wing politician, Rasmus Paludan, while the police let it go on the grounds of freedom of expression. Various sources also say that the Muslim population in Sweden is estimated to be more than 800,000 people who come from various backgrounds such as the Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, the Balkans, and also converts from the native Swedish population. They are spread across major cities such as Stockholm, Malmö, and Gothenburg, where there are mosques and active Islamic community centers. Mosques are not only places of worship, but also centers of social and educational activities. There, children learn the Quran and Arabic, teenagers get moral guidance, and families can socialize and strengthen their Islamic identity. There are also Muslim organizations that provide legal aid, social advocacy, and economic strengthening and integration programs. As a minority at the same time far from home, carrying out the annual fasting in the month of Ramadan is the biggest challenge. Moreover, fasting for Muslims whose Ramadan this year falls at the peak of summer throughout Europe. Sweden, for example, a country bordering the North Pole, during summer the sun will shine longer than usual. Fasting falls in the summer this year and also in the next few years, because the difference in the Gregorian and Hijra years is 11 days each year. Facts show that Islam developed in Sweden through citizens of immigrant descent who are mostly from Arab, Turkish, Somali, Central and South Asia. Well, through them, the excitement of Ramadan is mixed together, such as the official announcement of the beginning of Ramadan, known to the congregation via the internet. There are also times when meeting directly at the mosque or at the supermarket when shopping for halal meat. In Sweden, Muslims fast without knowing when the sun rises and sets, especially in the city of Kiruna. This is because Sweden experiences a midnight sun period that can last up to 6 months a year. Sweden is a country in Northern Europe that gets continuous sunlight during the summer, from early May to late August. In the city, the sun only sets for a few minutes. Sweden, Norway, and Finland, and several other regions are the countries with the longest fasting in the world, which is more than 20 hours and 30 minutes. An estimated 700 Muslims spend Ramadan in the mining town of Kiruna, located 145 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle and surrounded by snowy mountains throughout the summer. The sun shines all day from May 28th to July 16th, which is half the fasting period of the year. Because there is no central authority in Sunni Islam that can issue specific religious decisions or fatwas, Muslims in the north use at least 4 different schedules to break the fast. Muslim prayer times also follow the sun, meaning that during the winter, all 5 prayers can be performed within a 2-hour period. In principle, Islam wants ease, not hardship, as stated in the Quran al-Baqarah verse 185. Namely, Allah wants ease for His people and does not want hardship at all. Although Muslims are a minority, the atmosphere of Ramadan remains warm. Mosques and Muslim communities organize joint breaking of the fast, iftar, congregational Tarawih prayers, and tadarus of the Quran. This is an important moment to strengthen relationships, share sustenance, and deepen faith. The Muslim community is also active in distributing free takjil to the general public, including non-Muslims. This introduces Islamic values of compassion, care, and sharing. Many non-Muslim Swedes are impressed and even join in community events as a form of tolerance. Muslim children and teenagers who fast at school often become the focus of attention because they do not eat and drink while their friends are on break. Some teachers in schools show empathy and provide support. In some workplaces, Muslims also receive understanding from their superiors to adjust break times or workloads during Ramadan. However, some experience challenges, such as fatigue due to long fasting and the lack of special leave. This tests the strength of faith and time management skills. After a month of fasting, Eid al-Fitr is a highly anticipated moment. In big cities, Muslims gather in open fields or community centers to perform Eid prayers. Even though they are far from their extended family and their homeland, the atmosphere remains lively with the best clothes, traditional food, and greeting each other. Some schools and workplaces give permission for Muslims to celebrate Eid al-Fitr, but not all. For some parents or workers, the holiday is sometimes celebrated in simplicity after returning from work or school. Most Muslims in Sweden can practice their religion relatively freely. Praying in congregation, wearing the hijab, fasting during Ramadan, and celebrating Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha can be done openly. Some schools and workplaces have even begun to provide tolerance for Muslim students or employees to practice their religion and get special rest time during fasting. Even so, not all areas have complete religious facilities. In small towns or suburbs, Muslims have to struggle harder to find a community or place of worship. There are also challenges in terms of halal food, although halal restaurants and shops are now increasingly available. Mosques play a very important role. Not only as a place of worship, mosques in Sweden also function as community centers, places to learn religion, and a place of social integration for Muslims from various backgrounds. Sweden has hundreds of mosques, ranging from small and simple ones to large mosques with complete facilities. These mosques are spread across major cities such as Stockholm, Gothenburg, Malmö, Uppsala, and other cities. In 2015, the estimated number of Muslims in Sweden ranged from 8 to 10% of the country's total population. Meanwhile, as of June 2021, there are around 180 mosques in Sweden. The mosque that is considered to be the oldest in Sweden is the Stockholm Mosque, or Stockholms Moske. This mosque was built in 1950 and is located in Södermalm, Stockholm. Although not the first mosque in Sweden, the Stockholm Mosque has become one of the icons of the Muslim community in the country. The mosque was originally founded by a group of Muslim immigrants and has since become a center for Islamic religious and cultural activities in Stockholm. Mosques in Sweden not only serve Muslims, but also play an important role in introducing Islam to non-Muslim communities. Many mosques regularly hold open mosque days, where the general public, including non-Muslims, are invited to visit, engage in dialogue, and learn about Islamic teachings from their original sources. This is crucial to counteracting negative stereotypes and building bridges of understanding between the Muslim community and the Swedish majority. Visitors can see firsthand how Muslims worship, learn about Islamic history, and even taste typical Muslim food. Some mosques are also actively involved in interfaith dialogue programs, collaborating with churches and synagogues in social activities, national seminars, or solidarity actions during disasters. For many Muslims in Sweden, especially the younger generation who were born and raised in a Western environment, the mosque is an important place to strengthen their Islamic identity. Amid the influence of secularism and free Western culture, the mosque is a safe place to learn religion, get moral guidance, and form a supportive community. With the right guidance, the younger generation of Muslims in Sweden are not only able to maintain their religious values, but can also actively contribute to the wider community as citizens with integrity. In addition to large mosques in major cities, there are also many small mosques or prayer rooms run by local communities, often located in housing areas, apartments, or converted buildings. Although these small mosques are limited in facilities, they are very important because they reach Muslim communities in areas far from the city center. They become a place to gather, share information, and maintain religious spirit amidst the busyness of life abroad. Given the vital role played by mosques in Sweden, the hope for the future is that these mosques will not only be places of worship, but also become points of unity, empowerment of the community, and symbols of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin. By strengthening mosque management, increasing the involvement of the younger generation, and continuing to open themselves to dialogue with the wider community, mosques will continue to be centers of spiritual and social progress in the midst of a diverse European society. Sweden is one of the European countries with an amazing natural landscape. This country is also known for being peaceful, safe, and prosperous. Although the majority of the population in this country is not Muslim, there are several mosques that are beautifully built. These mosques are well maintained so that visitors can worship comfortably. Here are the 6 most amazing mosques in Sweden. Amaze you? Friends of the Islamic faith, did you all know that the development of Islamic propagation in Sweden is very rapid? This is evidenced by the presence of the Swedish Fatwa Council in 2009. 3 years later, the Adhan was heard for the first time in the Scandinavian country. The majority of Muslims live in large cities with more than 60% in the 3 major metropolitan areas of Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. Sweden's Muslim population is very diverse. They come from more than 40 different countries. Islam came to this country by immigrants fleeing the communist regime or regional conflicts. Most are Sunni, with Shia and Ahmadi populations. In addition to migrants, native Swedish Muslims are growing. There are no exact records, but it is estimated that the group of native Swedish Muslims who have converted to Islam has reached thousands. One convert, Mohammed Knut Bernström, translated the Quran into Swedish in 1998. Interestingly, many Swedish converts are also interested in joining Sufi orders. Famously, there is the famous painter Ivan Agueli, who follows the Siadziliya order, the philosophical spiritual writer Tage Lindbom, alias Sidi Zaid, the intellectual and spiritual figure Kurt Almqvist, and Tord Olsen. Tage Lindbom and Kurt Almqvist talk a lot about perennial philosophy. Freedom of religion is guaranteed in this country. However, Islamophobia and radicalism are challenges for Swedish Muslims. In the 2000s, the Bellevue Mosque in Gothenburg and Brandbergen in Stockholm attracted public attention because they were accused of being centers for terrorist recruitment and propaganda. When Salahuddin Barakat founded the Islamic Academy in 2013, he located it on the edge of Rosengård, a predominantly Muslim neighborhood that has become a flashpoint in Sweden's fierce immigration debate. It wasn't his first choice, he said, but people in downtown Malmö said we don't want to rent it to Muslims. Malmö, the country's southernmost major city, is the entry point for most immigrants heading to Sweden, and many choose to stay there. About 20% of Malmö's 300,000 residents are Muslim, making it one of the most Muslim-majority cities in Western Europe. Rosengård, population 25,000, is often the first district new residents live in. Malmö City Hall is like Ferguson, Barakat said, referring to the St. Louis suburb where civil unrest raged for weeks following the fatal shooting of an unarmed black man by a white police officer in 2014. Our government doesn't reflect our society. Indeed, in a city where first and second generation immigrants make up almost half the population, Malmö's 61-member city council is largely Swedish. With Malmö poised to become Sweden's first minority-majority city in the coming years, finding a solution to that imbalance is one of the activists' main long-term goals, and a predictor of the country's future political stability. Malmö has long been an industrial and port city that has seen many people stop by and settle there. It is estimated that there are 170 ethnic groups in Malmö, from Iraq to Hungary, from Bosnia to Romania. The issue of Islam in this city is not to be trifled with. If in Western Europe, Paris is the center of news about Islam, Moscow in Eastern Europe, then in Scandinavia, Malmö is the center of news. Malmö Muslims have to face negative anti-Islam opposition. They are accused of wanting to take over Malmö to become a Muslim area. Of course, this creates its own tensions, and there have been several negative incidents that have been detrimental to Muslims there. The Malmö Mosque, one of the largest mosques in Scandinavia, has experienced 3 bad events. This mosque was attacked by arson on April 28, 2003 until it was badly damaged. The second attack occurred on September 18, 2005, which then continued on October 21, 2005. This was all related to the growing anti-Islam issue there. Not only that, Malmö Muslims also receive political attacks. The Swedish Democratic Party is the one that most often attacks Malmö Muslims in Sweden in general. One of the leaders of this party, Per Norling, last year, even openly said that Muslims are not suitable to live in Sweden and must be moved. Muslims can stay if they abandon their teachings. Living as a Muslim in Sweden is indeed colorful. Although living in a country with a non-Muslim majority and sometimes facing challenges such as Islamophobia, the reality is that the lives of Muslims in Sweden feel beautiful, peaceful, and full of meaning. For many Muslims, living in Sweden is not only about maintaining faith in the midst of secularism, but also about showing that Islam is a religion that brings peace, justice, and beauty to modern life. Although often highlighted by the media because of negative views, in fact, Islam is growing rapidly in Sweden. More and more non-Muslims are interested in studying Islam objectively, even not a few who finally choose to convert to Islam. Every year, hundreds of Swedes take the Shahada and become part of the big family of Muslims. The Muslim community in Sweden comes from various backgrounds: the Middle East, Africa, South Asia, even Europe itself. Differences in language, culture, and customs are not a barrier, but rather a mosaic that enriches Islamic life here. One of the most amazing things is the presence of magnificent, beautiful, and active mosques throughout Sweden. Mosques are not only places of worship, but also community centers, places to study religion, and symbols of the peaceful existence of Islam. In Stockholm stands the majestic Zayed Mosque, with its stunning Middle Eastern architecture. In Malmö, there is an Islamic center which is the center of religious and social activities for Muslims. Even in small cities like Lund, the Muslim community actively prospers the mosque and carries out dawah in social activities. When entering a mosque in Sweden, the atmosphere is so warm. Smiles, greetings, and brotherhood are very strong, even in the midst of an individualistic society. It cannot be denied that Islamophobia still exists. Sometimes Muslim women who wear the hijab get cynical looks, or the mosque experiences disturbances from those who don't like it. However, Muslims in Sweden do not respond with hatred, but with noble morals, dialogue, and steadfastness of faith. It is precisely through these challenges that the beauty of Islam becomes more apparent. Islam is not only beautiful during Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, or during congregational prayers, but also beautiful when facing trials with patience, courtesy, and compassion. The life of Muslims in Sweden is a story of faith growing amidst modernity, of peace emerging amidst differences, and of the light of Islam that continues to shine even when buffeted by storms of prejudice. Islam in Sweden has not only survived, it has flourished, spreading with the beauty of morals, knowledge, and love. And anyone who witnesses it with a clear heart will know that Islam in Sweden is a real beauty. The beauty of Islam in Sweden is not just about the magnificent mosque buildings or the bustling religious activities. It is deeper than that. It lives in the smiles of fellow believers, in the soft prayers in the corner of a small mosque, in the warm embraces during Eid al-Fitr, and in the steadfastness of faith amidst the challenges of the times. Islam here is not about the number of people, but about the power of love, patience, and sincerity in practicing religion. The beauty here is very beautiful, not only because the eyes see it, but because the heart feels it. In Sweden, Muslims have proven that this religion is not just an identity, but a lifestyle that brings peace. Although a minority, they live with confidence, worshiping, preaching politely, and building a better society. In city parks, we can see Muslim families picnicking together while instilling the value of gratitude in their children. At universities, Muslim students not only excel in academics, but also become role models in ethics and goodness. In community centers, converts share touching stories about their journey of faith to find the light of Islam. All of this proves Islam in Sweden is not only surviving, but blooming with beauty. The beauty of Islam in Sweden is a reflection of the beauty of Islam itself. If lived with knowledge, compassion, and good morals, then Islam will feel beautiful in the hearts of anyone, and in any place. Even in a country with 4 seasons far from the birthplace of Islam, the values of the Quran are still able to grow and provide peace. In the far north of the world, where the sun sets late and the winters are long, Islam greets us warmly. It does not shout, it does not force, it comes in the light, in the smile, in the calmness of the heart. That is true beauty. Sweden is known as a country with a very orderly, calm culture that values equality. Swedes value privacy, punctuality, and individual freedom. For Muslims living here, understanding the local culture is essential to adapting well, without sacrificing their Islamic identity. Swedes tend to be quiet and do not like to talk loudly in public. They respect each other's personal space. This makes the city feel calm and peaceful, even though it is crowded. For Muslims, this actually provides comfort when praying or carrying out religious activities, because the surrounding environment supports calm. Sweden highly values religious tolerance. This country protects the right of every citizen to practice their respective religions. Mosques can be legally built, Muslims are free to wear the hijab, and religious holidays are recognized in the public calendar. In many schools and workplaces, Muslims are given space to practice their religion. such as praying or fasting during the month of Ramadan. Some companies even provide prayer rooms or adjust work schedules during Ramadan. A well-known Swedish cultural concept is lagom, meaning enough, balanced, and not excessive. This is very much in line with Islamic values of living simply, not being wasteful, and not being arrogant. Muslims can live harmoniously in this culture because Islam also teaches simplicity and balance in all aspects. One of the cultural challenges faced by Muslims in Sweden is the local people's habit of consuming alcohol, especially during celebrations and weekends. However, Swedes generally respect a person's decision not to drink and do not force them. As long as a Muslim is polite and confident in explaining his life choices, Swedish society will still respect him. Swedes value time very much. They are used to being on time for every meeting. They are also used to being independent and do not like to bother others, both in work and in everyday life. For Muslims who want to be successful in Sweden, these values can be used as capital, discipline, honesty, and responsibility, all in accordance with Islamic teachings. Swedish culture is basically friendly to Muslims, as long as we also respect local values. Islam can thrive here because universal values such as tolerance, honesty, and peace are highly valued by the people. Islam and Swedish culture can live side by side, not in conflict, but in complementarity. Islam in Sweden today is not just a religion practiced by immigrant communities, but has become part of the wider community. With the presence of beautiful mosques, active communities, and increasing numbers of people interested in embracing Islam, we see that Islam in Sweden is growing steadily and steadily. Despite the challenges, Muslims here remain steadfast in their faith, noble morals, and spirit of unity. It is precisely in the midst of these trials that the beauty and strength of Islam are increasingly apparent. From Stockholm to Malmö, from small towns like Lund to prestigious universities, Islam is present as a light that brings hope, peace, and compassion. Islam in Sweden is growing not only in numbers, but also in quality, a blessing for all who witness it. Friends of the Islamic faith who are blessed by Allah, I hope this video is useful and see you in our next video.